Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni Viewer, and welcome to Genre Bender's Obscurities and Flawed Gems, where we look at the best stuff you've never heard of. Continuing with the Halloween theme for this month, I shall go into the realm of anime for this review, looking at a series about vampires hunting monsters of the night. No, it's not Hellsing, actually. This is something a bit more obscure than that. A series known as Nightwalker, the Midnight Detective.
So, we're reviewing those kind of series now, are we?
What are you talking about? Oh, shoot, the DVD cover, right. This is not what it looks like.
Yeah, I really hate this DVD cover because every time I introduce this series to people, I find myself having to explain that this isn't vampire hentai. The cover doesn't make it easy for me, though. Look at what I'm up against. A presumably naked woman pinned down with a look of ecstasy on her face, a title that's also a slang term for prostitute, the easy-to-misinterpret promise of vampire action, and the fact that this DVD was distributed by Central Park Media, which was one of the most prominent purveyors of porn from Nippon before it closed its doors. Also, the source material is apparently a video game that's all kinds of icky.
There is some mature content in Nightwalker, it is an OVA after all, but I swear to you guys it's not hentai. It's a legitimate mainstream series that's really worth checking out if you can find a copy.
So if Nightwalker isn't hentai, what is it? Our story follows Tatsuhiko Shido, except that's not really his name. Heck, he's not even Japanese. You see, Shido has amnesia. He doesn't remember much about his past. He only knows that he's a vampire, but he isn't evil. He's taken up residence in Tokyo as a private detective, specializing in cases involving demonic creatures called nightbreeds.
Shido does not work alone, though. As the protagonist of an anime series, he gets the privilege of working with a collection of lovely ladies.
At his side are Miss Yayoi, a butt-kicking policewoman, Goonie, an urban fairy who lives in Shido's lavender hair, and Riho, an orphan teenager harboring a huge crush on him, though she doesn't know he's a vampire until the end of the first episode. The original 4-part OVA follows this quartet as they slowly uncover a supernatural conspiracy orchestrated by Kane, another vampire who holds the key to unlocking Shido's forgotten past.
The shorthand for what to expect with this series is best summarized this way. If Hellsing is anime's answer to Bram Stoker, Nightwalker is anime's answer to Anne Rice. Again, I swear the cover is not representative of the content.
The series feels heavily influenced by the Vampire Chronicles. Indeed, many parallels can be drawn between Shido and Lestat if you pay close enough attention to the few hints of backstory we get, and the nuances of his relationship to Kane.
Do not mistake inspiration with derivation, though, because Nightwalker has quite a bit to make it stand out.
Shido himself is a curious figure among anime vampires. He is one of the few monsters who hunt monsters in the medium who does so entirely of his own volition.
Usually such characters do what they do because they're being controlled by an organization, or they owe someone a debt of some kind. Shido, however, is exempt from this cliché.
He's not being controlled, and he's under no obligations to anyone. He's a good guy simply because he chooses to be, which is nice to see in this genre. He also has the ability to make weapons out of his own blood, which serves as his special ability and is just as hardcore as it sounds. As the icing on top, the series doesn't make him a total sad sack. Even though he doesn't really like being a vampire, he's not spending eternity wallowing in self-pity, but instead is making the best of his circumstances.
As for Shido's harem, female associates, they do a good job sharing the spotlight with him, but they aren't necessarily as nuanced.
Yayoi is the tough-as-nails cop who doesn't play by the rules, and she fills that role in a believable way, but we don't see much of her life beyond her connection to Shido. Still, I think most people will enjoy that she can hold her own against the Nightbreeds when Shido isn't around. Goonie is something of a mascot character, and while I'm sure most people will find her useless and annoying, she serves exactly the sort of role she ought to, as Shido's extra set of eyes. That being said, she still could have been a bit more relevant to the proceedings. Maybe she could have acted as a spy or something, I don't know.
Regarding Riho, I feel some clarification might be in order.
I did mention earlier that she's carrying a torch for Shido, but since she's a teenage girl and he's a several hundred-year-old vampire who physically looks to be in his late 20s at least, you may be wondering to what extent the series explores this angle.
Well, that depends on how far you watch the series too.
The first 4 episodes of Nightwalker are their own thing, and within those confines, things stay fairly tame. Riho's crush is predominantly one-sided, and while Shido never shoots her down, he never returns her romantic feelings either. The closest we get comes at the end when, spoilers, Shido turns Riho into a vampire to save her life, which involves kissing her rather than biting her. However, there are some televised episodes which follow these initial 4 that steadily shift the pair's relationship towards mutually romantic.
Now yes, I realize that the age of consent is slightly younger in Japan than it is in America, and Riho is above that age, but Shido is still several centuries her senior, so having them actually get together in the televised episodes can be a bit uncomfortable to watch. I personally do not bother with the televised episodes, though, because they suck.
Everything from the writing to the art style to the animation quality take a massive nosedive, and the last episode is just insulting. My advice is that if you try watching this series, stick to the original 4-episode OVA. You get a complete story with an ambiguous yet satisfying ending, and you avoid one of the more questionable anime romances on the market. Not as questionable as some others, granted, but still.
Moving on to other aspects, the story of Nightwalker isn't necessarily the one you might expect, but it is one that's well told.
As I said, Shido has amnesia, and we never actually learn the full extent of his past, even in the televised episodes. We only get hints, and from there we have to draw our own conclusions. Further ambiguity surrounds the machinations of Cain. He plans a golden dawn that requires a human woman giving birth to a hybrid, and while the series never treats Cain as anything less than evil, the Golden Dawn is seen as a gray area befitting of the film noir which Nightwalker clearly draws from. That 4-episode package is left very open-ended, but not in a way that feels like a cheap cop-out. By the end, you'll likely feel satisfied.
Animation-wise, Nightwalker is solid, aside from a few hiccups.
This series is hand-drawn, and the consistency is maintained throughout. Very few shots are recycled, and most of the budget-saving cheats used by animators are handled smoothly so you don't really notice them.
That being said, a few flubs can still be found, like overshading on faces, for example.
Where'd his nose go, kids? Can you find it?
Thankfully, those moments are rare. Nightwalker may not look as slick and polished as more recent digitally rendered anime, but if you appreciate old-school animation styles, you'll likely appreciate this series.
At least some mention must be made of the music. Akifumi Tada, who composed the scores for such anime as Skip Beat, Cyborg 009, Dinosaurs, and Samurai Gun, to name a few, did the score, and his efforts result in stylish, jazzy tunes that always help set the mood. Ramping up the atmosphere is the opening theme Gesakai by Bucktick, which was not originally written for the series, but which fits it so perfectly that I'm glad it was included. Hearing it at the start of each episode really helps set the mood. So Nightwalker the Midnight Detective is different from your usual vampire anime series. I know one of my repeated mantras of late has been that different doesn't always mean good, but it doesn't always mean bad either.
If you're looking for vampires that don't sparkle, but you also don't want excessive gore, this just might be right down your alley. It's not easy to find these days since the DVD is out of print, but if you can find it, it shouldn't be passed up. Just watch episodes 5 through 12 at your own risk. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer, signing off. Seriously, who designed this cover? Anime fans have a bad enough reputation as it is without stuff like this making it harder for us. That came out wrong.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it as well as subscribe to the channel for more content of a similar nature. Also, check the description for links to our Twitter, DeviantArt, and Patreon pages, as well as the Amazon link for the novel Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, penned by yours truly. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.